Have you ever dreamed of building your own business? Whether it's a property buying business or a service business, you can make it happen in 2025. In today's video, I'm going to break down the simple step-by-step walkthrough that you need to follow in order to be successful this year. Let's jump straight in. So step one is all about figuring out your business model. I think a big mistake that I see at the beginning of most people's journey is they just want momentum. So they're like, go, 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 post, 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 talk, talk, talk. And especially in property investment, you go to like these seminars where there's 20 different strategies and you go, I'm gonna do all of them, or the one that you hear first, right? So we wanna narrow this down between a property buying business, a service business, or an investment business. And there are three different really approaches, I guess. So let's start with the property buying business. So this is one, if you're especially confident on communicating with investors, people that are either high net worth individuals, or maybe friends and family where they've got something in the bank, or maybe you've got a bit to invest in. This is kind of like a mid-speed money-making model. So nothing in properties get rich quick, and I want to be really clear on that. But buying and flipping properties, which typically is buying, refurbishing, and selling them on, it's a nice way of making chunks of change. In 2025, we should see a decent amount of stability in the market. So we're not going to see a crazy growth year. We're also not going to see a absolute travesty where it falls down, right? We're going to see some pretty decent stability, which is a great market to do flips on, because flips, the basis of success is on solid foundations. So we should get that in 2025. Now, it does require startup capital, and it does require variables. You do need some confidence going into this, because we need to have a solid understanding of the property market, and we need to be able to analyze the end value. So if we look at the skill sets for this, and we'll keep this simple for now, do you have funds or access to some funds where you can chat with people and build that relationship where they can trust you enough? Number two, are you willing to build a bit of a network out there? For example, getting your solicitors, your builders, your trades teams, etc. And are you decent at some basic level of data analysis? And the reason for that is what makes a successful investment is when you're buying the property rather than when you're selling the property. So I've just bought one last week actually, and I've bought it around 140K. I know that I will end up selling it at about 200,000 after putting around 25,000 in. So yes, I make the money when I sell the property, but what I offered on the property today had nothing to do with what the property was listed for. It's working back from the end value, what my profit is, what the refurbishment's gonna be, and therefore what I can offer. So if you've got that skill set, property buying might be right for you. So next is a service-based business. So in property, we would call this deal packaging or property trading. So my company is called Aspire, and one of the main ways we actually make money is through deal packaging, and we did around 4.1 million in sales last year. That's our fees, by the way. So it is the reason I love it is a good startup business, but it's also clearly one that you can scale quite a lot. The reason I love it is how much you can make is unlimited. It's based on how hard you want to work, how well educated you get, and are you a good communicator. So the great thing if you're watching this is if you don't have a load of money, you can actually get involved in this business with probably a couple of £1,000, which if you can't get hold of a couple of grand, you're probably not ready for business right now. When you don't have resources, you have to get resourceful though. And what I mean by that is it's about your talent, your communication skills, your negotiating skills. So when you're looking at deal packaging, naturally you're aiming to provide a service. And when you're aiming to provide a service, you have to be a solutions provider. And in order to provide good solutions, usually you need to be a decent level communicator. So if you're willing to put yourself out there, build relationships and add value to people, deal packaging could be a really good way of making money, and most people do around 6 figures in revenue in their first calendar year. Final one is a little bit more obvious, if you watch Homes Under the Hammer, is buy, refurbish and refinance properties. In short, buy-to-lets. I love buy-to-lets. It's fairly boring. I actually call them boring vanilla buy-to-let properties. And they are great, but make no mistake, I wouldn't call this a business as such. This is building a portfolio. Goes without saying, the skill is a lot lower apart from the sourcing and negotiating side of things. But in general, you need a decent amount of funds. So if you're watching this as somebody at the beginning of their property career, I'd really look at probably the service-based business, so deal packaging, alternatively buying and selling property. Step number 2 is setting it up. And when I say setting it up, I mean doing it legally. So you want to set up your business for the long-term nature. Some people say build to sell. Now, I don't quite think you should be setting up your business thinking about selling it, but I do think you should take it seriously from day one. Act like you're 5 years ahead. Act like you are a professional. Act like you mean business. Act like you're serious. Act like you are actually looking to turn up for other people and be professional. Because if you act like a child and act like you have been in it for 5 minutes, you're going to get those results. So what does this actually look like? Well, first of all, think about the business structure. You've got 3 ways of setting up the business. It could be as a sole trader in your personal name, as an LTD, a limited company, or an LLP, a limited liability partnership. Now, let me just narrow these down. An LLP is only relevant to you if you've got a business partner that you're setting up with, and you need to talk to an accountant about this, really. I'm not going to give you financial advice on this video, but a majority of people will not set up as an LLP, but there are some benefits. Talk to your accountant. A sole trader, again, look, I'm not an expert in that part, if I'm completely honest with you. And the reason for that is I don't believe in building businesses acting like an individual. For me, I want to set up a business that I can actually scale. And so for 99% of you, I can near guarantee this. You talk to an accountant or a business setup specialist, 99% of you will be setting up under a limited company. 2 things that you're going to need for that is setting up with Companies House and setting up your bank. Now, at the time of filming this, there's 2 banks I really like, which is Tide and Wise. None of this is financial advice, by the way, just personal experience. And honestly, you can set up on Companies House yourself. You go on companieshouse.co.uk. I think it costs about 20 quid to set up on your own. And you're going to be asked about a SIC code, which is a security code. You can have up to 4 of them. For deal packaging and most property businesses, you want to look at 68100 and 68310. Go and Google them, have a look, and it's basically just telling people what your business does. There are some licenses and regulations out there. Yes, whilst we are not regulated by the FCA, there are some rules that we want to be complying with. So this is going to be very dependent on what type of business, property business that you're looking at, but almost definitely you're going to need some form of insurance here, so professional indemnity, liability insurance. You're definitely going to need data protection. You might have heard of GDPR, but in short, if you are collecting business cards, if you've got tenants, if you're writing down people's personal details, just get GDPR. It's with the ICO, which is the Information Commissioner's Office. It costs something like £40 a year, and it just makes sure that you're following regulations when you're controlling people's data. The final thing to really think about is anti-money laundering, from a point of view if you're handling people's money, you want to make sure it's not stolen or they're funneling money through or anything like that. And all you need to do is register with HMRC for anti-money laundering and do some basic checks. The software I used is Smart Search. Costs about £3 to check out, make somebody's doing it. So I promise you, get it. It's really worth the money. The final thing is, if you're doing something like deal packaging, you need to be a part of some sort of ombudsman. So an ombudsman is a mediator. Okay, it's not good or bad. It just means that if you're doing business with people, every now and then you're going to make a mistake, or somebody's going to perceive that you've made a bit of a mistake. Okay, and if they perceive that and you're having a bit of an argument, let's say professionally speaking, a mediator is somebody where you send your information, the client that has their grief with you sends their information, and the ombudsman makes a decision. It's just really good. Number 1, it's a legal requirement. And number 2, it's nice just to take that away from yourself. Number 3, build your network. A really common phrase in property investing is your network is your net worth. And I think a lot of people actually think of this as the investors, but actually that's not the most value out there. You'll quickly realize that there's an abundance of people with money that either want to joint venture with you, fund your deals, or indeed pay you for your service of finding your deals. But there's so much more than that. There's accountants, there's brokers, there's letting agents, and all of these people are connected in a serious way. So let's keep with investors, for example. Well, what about a mortgage broker that specializes in buy-to-let mortgages? Well, that's going to be a really good contact because every single one of their customers is looking to buy-to-let properties. What about a letting agent? Well, a letting agent is an amazing source of properties that are specifically buy-to-let. So you could get buy-to-let portfolios for landlords that are looking to exit the market, but also they've got contacts of landlords that are looking to buy more properties. These are great relationships to have, and I'm going to give you 2 tips on building your network. Number 1, offline, is going to places like BNI, Business Network International. Every single location in the UK has what they call a chapter, and if you go there, I think it costs 20 quid to go there as a guest. It's usually a breakfast meeting. You go there and you will meet people, and it honestly seems like one of the most connected rooms in the world. You will be able to find one of anything that you want. A letting agent, estate agent, broker, they will know somebody that knows somebody that knows the person you're looking for. Online tip for you is if you go on Facebook and you change your location to wherever your area is going to be in your business, and you go into a Facebook group. So in property, for example, let's say I'm looking for properties in Doncaster, but I don't live in Doncaster. I'll go on Facebook, I'll change my location to Doncaster, I'll go on a Facebook property group, go to members and scroll down, and it will show me members in my area. And it's a really great, efficient way for me to build my network online with locals in the area without me physically going there. And suddenly I've got my on-the-ground power team without ever leaving the house. So at Aspire Education, my education business, one of the key things that we really focus on is community. I think when you're building your online business, your property business, is that it can get quite lonely. There's a phrase that we use that the oxygen gets thinner at the top. And it's about that actually when you go into this new space, you want to be a part of the 1%. It's really hard to find those individuals. So it's all about pushing each other, being there. And we like to meet up online. We do physical events around the UK, but we sort of come together on a regular basis and push each other to the next level. And I'd love for you to be a part of that. If you are interested in having a chat, no obligation whatsoever, put education in the chat now. We'll have a one-to-one strategy session, and I'd love for you to be a part of that. So now we want to move on to actually finding your first deals. Now that you've established what type of business you want to do, what types of properties you're looking for, you're surrounding yourself with the right people, I think it's time to take some on. Now the thing is, you want to think about attracting the people to you. Now if you're going out there to where people are publicizing, honestly, my best tip is just go for the low-hanging fruit. Go to Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market, maybe even Gumtree, where people are actively marketing the businesses. That's your low-hanging fruit and actually represents around 90% of the market. So why wouldn't you go there? On the other side of it, you want to think about, how do I get people coming to me? And I'm going to give you some tips on that. But the reason it's so powerful in any business is that if people have come to you, then they've seen your marketing and gone, I want to have a chat with this person, and you're much more likely to work with that individual. So for example, you're watching this video, and as much as I'd love to, I don't know who you are specifically, but because you've watched my video, I can have a call to action like I did earlier about, hey, if you want to have a chat about education, put education in the comments. And because you're casting that net out, and then the people that are genuinely interested in you, they come to you and ask for a call, it makes the conversation a lot more fluid. So with finding deals, for example, I really like Facebook ads. Facebook ads is probably one of the most effective ways for me to get direct to vendor below market value deals, if that's what you're looking for. And so by putting this marketing out there, and this can apply to any business, you create awareness of who you are, you communicate effectively, and then people will come to you. So you want to have your mixture there, but for me, I would definitely have the areas that I go to find these individuals, but also the context of people coming to me at the same time. Now, when we get these deals in, it's then about negotiating. So I mentioned below market value, and sometimes I'll focus on getting a decent discount on the property, but ultimately, what makes a great deal is criteria. And my criteria, your criteria, my investors' criteria, your investors' criteria will all be different. So it's really important that you understand that just because it's on Rightmove, it's a property, it doesn't make it a deal. So in order to make a property a deal, you have to have criteria, and that starts with you or your investor. So have the criteria in mind, communicate that to the vendor, and make the deal work for both of you. Just remember, how you're finding your deals are going to be very similar across whether it's a deal packaging business, so your service business, or your property buying business. It's all about what numbers you're looking to attract. So for a deal packager, for example, if you're packaging on boring vanilla buy-to-let properties, it's going to be about the capital growth and the locations of those properties. Whereas if you're looking for the flips, it's going to be about what margin can I get in that property. So it's looking at what profit you can get there. So put yourself out there, make it clear what you're looking to attract, whether it's online, offline, or through estate agencies, and then apply your business model and therefore criteria to each property. You found the deal, that's great. You know what you want to do with it, but you don't have the money. And this is pretty much every business's problem, is how are we actually going to cash flow this? Now, the cool thing about deal packaging is you don't really need a huge amount of money, because obviously your startup cost is a bit of compliance, which is your setting up the business, bit of the regulations that you need, bit of insurance, maybe a bit of marketing spend. So we're talking a couple of grand, where of course if you're buying property, then you're going to need significantly more. Now, does that mean you need your own money? No, you can look into OPM. So in property, OPM is a really common thing, and that stands for other people's money. And it's really common, by the way, and you kind of get shocked, and people go, but why would anyone loan me the money? Because people buy from people. The reality is that if you've got educated in the right way, whether you've got 1 year's experience or 5 years experience, it really isn't that relevant. Genuinely, the only benefit is, and it's not really a benefit, is they've gone through economic cycles. But I tell you what, I'm sure you've got Google as well. All right, you can analyze the markets just as well as everyone else. Like, I don't need to have been around in 1920 to know what happened in 1920. People will finance your deals. Now, when you're building your property buying business, this is typically through loans or joint ventures. They're similar, but not quite the same. A loan is saying, I will give you 100 grand, but I expect a 10% return per year that you have my 100 grand. So no matter how much money you make it with it, you could make 10 grand profit or 50 grand profit. At the end of the year, I want my £10,000 in interest. So you'll pay back the 10 grand. And if it was only a 1 year loan, you also have to pay back that 100 grand. The other is a JV, a joint venture. Now, usually there's two sides to the joint venture. There's the finance part and then the sweat equity part. Sweat equity is you, the person that puts in the time, the energy, maybe you've paid for your education and you're going to do all of the work. And then someone like me comes along and goes, I'll give you 100 grand for you buying that property, doing it up and selling it on, and I want to split the profits 50-50. And that's the most typical joint venture, is I put in the money, you put in the time, the knowledge and the effort, and then we split everything 50-50 after. So what that means is if I put in 100 grand and you make 30 grand profit, I get 100 grand back and we each make 15,000. Now the downside to you is 9 times out of 10, you'll be giving away more profit than if you did it on a loan basis. The benefit as a newbie is that, let's say the project doesn't quite go to plan and it only makes £3,000 profit. It's not ideal, but you're only splitting that 3 grand instead of having to pay me £10,000 no matter what. Or let's say it doesn't go to plan. In fact, it goes terribly. And after everything, the market shifted. I know this is unlikely, but it only got £90,000. So now you've lost £10,000. Well, that's the risk of somebody doing a joint venture. So I'd take my 90K, lick my wounds and move on to another day. Whereas technically, if I loaned you 100K, at 10%, you'd still owe me the 110,000. So for newbies, doing a joint venture is often the best way. But just a quick tip with this, you need to make sure that joint ventures are only done with either sophisticated investors or high net worth individuals. And you look on the FCA website for more guidance on that. So next, we're marketing the business. This is actually crucial. I genuinely think that marketing is the lifeblood of every business. It's one of those things that, could you survive without it? Maybe, but can you thrive without it? Certainly not. And it's really important, and especially in today's world where there's YouTube, there's Twitter, or X now, isn't it? And everything else in between, that you need to position yourself out there and understand what your USPs are, your unique selling points. So let's start with building your brand. There's two types of brands, the business brand and your personal brand. And in general, people getting to know you, I think is really important. So for example, let's say me, the Jamie York brand that I'm building, is some people like me, some people don't like me. And I'm genuinely okay, like I'm a sensitive little bunny, but some people have watched this video and stopped watching already because they were bored of me. They don't like it, they don't like the content, and that's fine. And some of you are watching this and going, do you know what, this is really helpful actually, going through the basics. Some people will watch all the way to the end only to leave a comment and go, this was shit. So, well, who's right? It doesn't really matter, it's personal to them. But what I can tell you is by putting out these videos and trying my best to add a load of value, people are going to buy into me. So let's say for every 100 people, 20 of those really like me, and 10 of those actually have the ability to work with me, either in my education company or as an investor. Well, that's going to be really good. Here's the tip that I would give you about building your personal brand, and some mistakes that I made is be yourself. Genuinely, like when I started building my personal brand, I'd watch all these other people, and if you can even see it on YouTube, like go to like my first video, my 100th video, my second 100, and you go through them and you see these different personalities morphing. And because in the first few hundred videos, I'm watching other people trying to figure out who I want to be, and actually, I just don't give a shit now. It's just like, I'm just going to have a chat with you and hopefully you get value. I'm doing my best, and if you do, that's great. And I know that just by being me, I am drawing people in, and I'm also pushing people away. And that's the key with marketing. If you think about this circle as the overall market, I'm looking for a really small slice of that. And the likeliness is, if you're still watching this far into the video, you probably represent that slice. And it's okay the fact that the others are now gone. So building your brand positions you in any market. Something that somebody said to me once is that if somebody else has their personal brand at the forefront of your business, eventually they're the person that will own it. And they didn't mean like officially own the shares, but if somebody is the face of your brand, it's only a matter of time before they are seen as the brand. And eventually they will leave, right? And take everything with them. And so it's really important that there's certain things in business you just have to get over, and one of them is building a brand. Some people are like, I don't like posting on Facebook. Well, don't fucking start a business then. This is stuff you need to hear rather than you want to hear, because I know that getting on camera, doing photos of you, all of that is not the most interesting thing for a lot of people. You don't need to be doing video, but you do need to be putting yourself out there. And I promise you, the people that put in the effort in building a form of brand, whether that's company or personal brand, are way more successful than those without them. The best way of translating this to money for deal packaging is then platforming, showing, case studying the deals that you're doing. So when you start to get known for producing really high quality stuff, our USP, our unique selling point, is that we've got one of the highest Trustpilot brands in the UK in our field. So we've got one of the highest ratings. And that's really hard to do. It takes a long time. Now, at the beginning of your journey, you're not going to have that USP. But what if you worked with Pete, and Pete had a really good experience by working with you? Why did he have a great experience? What was it about you that created such a great experience through this? And that is what you want to market. Ultimately, if there's a top tip that I could give around marketing, is document, don't create. The biggest mistake that I see a lot of people when they're starting out in business trying to market themselves is they get so obsessed with trying to act like they're the new coach, the new mentor, I've got a course to sell, that type of thing. And the reality is that actually, if you just go out there and share what you did today, what you learned, and how it applies to them as the potential investor, potential customer, they will start buying into you more. And one of the best things I did is start to document my journey from relatively young age in business, if you like. And so people can follow me on that journey and either buy into it or not. But by documenting, not creating, I don't ever run out of ideas because it is just following the day to day. And it's also really real. It's not me going into presenter mode, it's you sharing in that journey, being a POV, if you like, the point of view aspect of how you can get involved in that. The final step of this is scaling the business. So I know that a lot of this is about start up the basics, but you'll be shocked at how quick you can scale. And I'm going to give you an example, and hopefully this doesn't scare you off. Getting from 0 to 10K a month in my deal packaging business was some of the hardest money that I made. Getting from 10K to 50K a month almost felt illegal, and it's because of these things. First of all, you've got to have a growth strategy, and this happens around the systems first of all. Business, I always visualize it as the tap, the pipe work, and the bucket. The pipe work are your systems, your processes, your automations, and more on that in a second. And the lead flow that we're trying to put through the pipe work is the tap, and the bucket is your bank account. Once you've mastered the processes, the pipe work, the automations, the scripts, what happens when a lead comes in, you call them, you qualify them, make sure they're right for you, you're right for them, then you book them in for a proposal and they say yes or no and they work with you, you get paid, right? Then you just turn on the taps as you're going through. But once you've got a scaling model, you need to think about what funnels are going to get you there. And I'll give you some examples for investors. So first of all, I started with just one-to-one meetings with investors in London. Eventually that got a bit too much. That's going to get me to maybe 50K a month, but it's going to be really hard getting me to a couple of £100,000 a month. Then what I did is I started to go online doing YouTube videos. Then we looked at things such as investor tour days, where I'll do maybe an ad inviting them to an investor tour day, have 20, 30 people come up and then pitch them what I'm doing. And then finally, it might be a VSL, and a VSL is a video sales letter. So I might film something for 5 minutes. It's really good. We actually just filmed one, and then we put ads behind it. And the great thing about that is once you've got it in place, it just runs on autopilot. So I know this is a lot, and I didn't want to spend a load of time on scaling your business, especially when we're looking to start out. But here's what I will say, and this is my final little call to action. It's like going at this alone can be really quite daunting because you don't know what's right, you don't know what's wrong. And for me personally, like I said, is being around like-minded individuals. So if you'd like to go on this journey with somebody, with me, with my team, then put education in the comments. We'll have a chat, figure out where you're at, where you want to get to. And if we can help you, that would be amazing. But if not, just be great to chat, give you some personalized advice so you can make 2025 your best year. Yeah. And if there's some final tips of encouragement, is everyone that's done their 1,000th deal did their 100th, and everyone that did 100 did their first. The reality is the one key missing ingredient is you in this. You have to take the action. I hope this has been a little bit of a basic blueprint for you to give you a step-by-step guide. And I promise you that even if it's not deal packaging, even if it's not a property buying business, if you follow these steps, you will become successful. As I said, put education below if you want to have a chat. But if not, I hope this has just been massively valuable for you. If you want to learn more about property, investing and business, hit subscribe and notification bell. And if it has been value, tap the like button and I'll see you in the next video.